Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we are doing the what's next on Murodjon Ahkmadaliev, better known as MJ, who returned to action on December, 16th on the DAZN undercard and defeated Kevin Gonzalez, breaking him down and stopping him in the, I believe it was the 7th or 8th round, to win the WBA final eliminator. Now, before we get into all that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. Yeah, this was a good one for MJ. It's exactly what he needed to bounce back from following that tough defeat to Marlon Tapales earlier this year, which really costed him the costing him his world title, but costing him the opportunity to fight Naoya Inoue, who is now the undisputed champion. As I do this video, earlier this morning, he knocked out Marlon Tapales to become undisputed. So it was a sad one, you know, that loss, but he came back, got put right into a final eliminator because, you know, he only lost a split decision. You know, he lost the tight one, and he took on the undefeated Kevin Gonzalez and did what I thought he would do. He broke down Gonzalez, landed the hardest shots, put the pressure on, and just methodically chopped him down en route to TKO victory, as now he is the WBA's mandatory #1 ranked contender. So now the big question is, what's next for MJ Ahkmadaliev following this win? Or Ahkmadaliev is what they were calling him, but same difference on DAZN. So we start with the monster Inoue. Yes, he is the WBA's mandatory challenger now, but when there is an undisputed champion, you have to wait in line depending on which one was first. And the four governing bodies, for the majority now, get together to decide all that and bring it to us. So what's going to happen first? Well, right now it looks like Luis Nery is going to get the first crack at Inoue, you know, next year. So we don't know exactly when. We know Nery's people were saying, you know, maybe in May. I think the earliest would probably be April, but I think May sounds about right. And you know, I hope you know, it is I hope Inoue and you know, Inoue happens for MJ, but it's not going to happen next. He could be a possibility for the second half of the year, but we got to see. Following that, now we look at some of the other guys in the division. We start with Luis Nery. Nery, like I said, almost for sure going to fight Inoue, in my opinion, next. And even if he wasn't, even if Inoue decided to fight, you know, there's been Casimero before. It has been a rumor. Also, there's Sam Goodman from Australia, who's also a mandatory challenger. If they were to come together and that fight were to happen first, I don't think Nery would risk his mandatory shot taking on the likes of MJ, so I don't see that one. Then there's Stephen Fulton Jr., the former Unified Champion. I don't think this fight's gonna happen, not just from a promotional stance, but I don't think MJ would want to risk his mandatory shot by facing a guy as tough as Fulton. But I also don't believe that the promoters would get together for this fight. And then a third thing is I really believe Stephen Fulton's probably, when he returns, is going to be fighting at 126 moving forward. But you know, we got to wait and see for sure. But that's just my opinion. Then there's undefeated Sam Goodman. You know, another one where I would love, you know, a super mandatory to be announced. You know, that, like, I think mandatory challengers should have to fight each other if they have to wait for an undisputed champion, because you're not just fighting for one belt, you're fighting for 4 belts. You know, and if it's more than 1 belt, then there should be a super mandatory. If there's any fighter that holds 3 or more world titles, to where you can't just fight your next mandatory and get them out of the way, then the other mandatories should have to fight each other. That's just my opinion. You know, create a super mandatory challenger. And I believe Goodman and MJ are going to be the next two guys, you know, waiting, you know, because I believe Inoue is going to get the crack at, yeah, I wholeheartedly believe it's going to be Inoue getting the next title shot. So if that's the case, then I think MJ should end up fighting, what's his name, Goodman next. But I don't believe that's going to happen. Goodman's #1 in the IBF and the WBO. So I don't think these two are going to get together and make that fight happen. You know, it's too much to risk under the current rules the way they are. I just wish they would make a super mandatory. Then there's Marlon Tapales. And I wonder if Tapales would be interested in this, because I'd love to see MJ maybe try to sell himself to Inoue by rematching Tapales. You know, Tapales did get knocked out against Inoue just earlier today, so I'm leaning towards Tapales probably wouldn't want to come right back and fight a guy like MJ in a rematch. But man, if MJ could push for this and maybe even agree to go to the Philippines or something major, you know, or spend a shitload more money than Tapales would be used to making for this kind of fight, I would love to see these two guys lock horns for the title. I mean, I just think it would make a lot of sense. I mean, not for the title, in a rematch. So so MJ could try to right the wrong and leave no doubt. But again, I don't think that's likely. Then there's Rais Salim, still a top 10 guy. He's with the PBC, and I don't believe MJ would want to take a risk against a guy with the skill set of Alim next, so I don't see that one. After that, I'm not seeing very many guys. You got Liam Davies from the United Kingdom. Potentially would be interested, but again, this is kind of one of those unknown fighters that you don't really want to take that risk and lose, because you have a guaranteed shot. But would MJ do that while he's waiting around, or is he just going to take tune-ups? There is the prospect of maybe there's Ionut Baluta, but an awkward style. It's an easy fight to make, but he's an awkward style, and that guy is literally built to pull off upsets. So MJ, in my opinion, after roughly going through the top 10, you know, it's gonna be tough, because he's gonna have to play the weight game. I really don't believe that MJ is gonna rush to the front of the line when he barely became mandatory. I believe Inoue, and a lot of people are gonna look at it, well, I knocked the guy out for undisputed that you lost to, so why do I need to fight you? You don't have a big name. And they would be right in that stance for the moment. But MJ, you know, I hope he comes back and, like I said, would push for something like Tapales, something like Sam Goodman in a super mandatory. But I just don't think those fights are very realistic, sadly. So hopefully it's against a decent opponent, but I really believe he's probably just going to stay busy until at least Inoue fights Neri and gets him out of the way, and then sees what the IBF, WBO, and WBA want to do about who gets the next crack at the undisputed champion, Naoya Inoue. So that's it. That's what I got. That's my what's next on the former Unified Super Bantamweight Champion of the world, Murodjon Ahkmadaliev, MJ, following a dominant TKO victory over Kevin Gonzalez in a WBA final eliminator at 122 pounds super bantamweight. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. 1 second here, guys. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.